All right, we are right in the middle of cross-examination of the state's witness. You may continue, Mr. Victor.
Maybe we're closer to the end, Your Honor.
Okay.
Did you know that Mr. Cochran was using the so-called smart drugs from nootropics?
I'm not familiar with that term, smart drugs. I don't know
Well, you
what that
gave
is.
us the discovery. You did all these investigation. You didn't know that Mr. Cochran was using substances that you didn't even know about?
If it was a discovery, that doesn't necessarily mean that I had knowledge that he was actually using anything.
Did you hear anything about Mr. Cochran using substances that boosted the brain performance?
No, I don't recall hearing that.
Anything about substances that increase the memory of a person who uses them?
No, like I said, I guess the supplement information that I was given was by the defendant after Mr. Cochran was deceased.
Did you know that he used any stimulants to keep him awake?
No.
Did you know that he was using substances that had pretty serious side effects, such as high blood pressure, fast heart rate, insomnia, trouble sleeping? Did you know that he was using these substances?
I don't know what substance you're referring to.
For example, Provigil.
Could you pronounce that again?
Provigil. Provigil.
I don't know if he was using that or not.
How about substances like Adderall, Ritalin?
Do I know if he was using them?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know that.
Okay. All right. You participated in the search of the Cochran residence in June of 2019, right?
That's correct.
And you were there to seek financial information, right?
It's a wide variety of things we were there seeking as part of that search warrant.
Well, the search warrant provided mostly for the evidence of financial crimes. You weren't searching anything related to murder, were you?
No.
No. May I?
Yes.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Showing you what's been marked as the defense exhibit number 9. It may be 9, 10, or 11, or it's 9.
It says 9 and 4 photos.
Okay, so it's collective 9.
Yes, sir.
Would you tell us what that is?
It's a vial with the label Humalog on it.
Is it true, sir, that you found that vial in the refrigerator of Mrs. Cochran's?
That's correct.
Okay. And that was the vial that has already been discussed here before this jury in this case, right?
That's correct.
Mr. Cochran died in February of 2019, right?
Yes.
And you find this vial in June. That would be June, well, I don't remember the exact date. June what?
I believe the search warrant was on June 25th of 2019.
Okay. Well, some 4 months later.
Yes.
Looking at this exhibit, would you agree with me that this bottle is full?
No.
No? Look at the second picture. Would you agree with me that that bottle is, that's the same bottle, isn't it?
It appears to be, yes.
And that bottle is full.
I can't tell anything at all from this picture
You can't, okay?
as far as the level of contents.
Okay. And would you flip to the next page? And that bottle appears to be full. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Same answer. I can't tell from this picture. I can't make an assessment.
Remember the testimony of the expert who said that you would have to inject somebody with a fair amount, and she did that, if I remember the gesture, something like that. Remember that? To cause the death with that type of insulin.
Which expert are you referring to?
Dr. Krieger. She said she used the word fair amount.
That sounds accurate.
So does it appear to you, and we don't know exactly where this gesture stopped, but would it appear to you that a fair amount of substance from this bottle has been withdrawn?
I can't testify to what Dr. Krieger believes is a fair amount based on a hand signal.
Would you agree with me, sir, that as you sit here today, you cannot tell this jury with any degree of certainty that this bottle that was found in the refrigerator of my clients is the bottle that was used by in your case, what you believe, as the murder weapon?
Can you ask me that again, please?
This is not the bottle that was used and its substance been used to allegedly inject Mr. Cochran. You have no evidence of that.
I can't say if it is or it isn't.
Do you have any evidence whatsoever that it is? Let me ask you this before you, maybe ask you another question. You have any fingerprints on that bottle?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
You have any DNA on this bottle? We're talking about a murder case, talking
Right.
about a murder weapon.
No.
You would expect the Quantico people and you and everybody else to examine this bottle from top to bottom for fingerprints, for DNA, for any sign of connection between this bottle and this person, my client. Do you have any scientific evidence or any evidence that this is the bottle that caused the death, on the substance that caused the death of Michael Cochran?
No, not this particular bottle. I can't say either way, if it is or it isn't.
Okay, if I may retrieve the exhibit.
Very well.
Can you get insulin over the counter?
I really don't know. I've heard conflicting answers on that.
Okay. Can a pharmacist get insulin over the counter? Or if she's planning a murder with insulin, can we maybe like take some from the supplies of the pharmacy where she's working?
We're speaking hypothetically.
Well, let's say can a pharmacist have access to insulin?
I would imagine a pharmacist can if they're dispensing it, yes.
Okay. And if somebody wants to use insulin as a murder weapon, they can obtain it without any major suspicion or any major problems.
As long as they are actually employed as a pharmacist and actively working as a
Okay.
pharmacist.
Or if they know people in the pharmacy business, and maybe they can get some on the slide. Right?
I would hope not, but I guess it's possible.
And they may not necessarily need to ask the neighbor for the insulin, that they can get themselves over the counter.
I can't answer that question.
Do you know what kind of insulin you can get over the counter?
No, sir.
Okay. Wouldn't that be one of your basic questions before you accused my client of murdering Mr. Cochran with insulin?
Your client told me that she could buy insulin over the counter in one of the interviews that I did with her.
Okay. All right. If I may have a second.
Very well.
That's all the questions I have of this witness.
All right, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. And I will go ahead and advise the court, since I will need help, I'm going to need the projector again.
I'm sorry?
I will go ahead and advise that I will need help with the projector again.
Oh, okay. All right, you may proceed, Ms. Cochran.
Lieutenant Bledsoe, you have experience working in federal court, right?
Yes.
So you're familiar with the topic of unindicted co-conspirators?
Yes.
So if you believe that Michael was involved, could you have pursued conspiracy charges against Ms. Cochran?
Could you rephrase that or repeat that? I'm sorry.
If you believed that Michael was involved in the federal charges, could you have pursued conspiracy charges against Mrs. Cochran?
Yes.
But you did not do that, correct?
No, we did not.
The properties that were named in the forfeiture were owned by both of the Cochrans when Michael was alive, right?
Correct.
And we've seen that Michael's name was on all of the various bank accounts of the two companies. Does this tell you what he did or didn't know about the businesses at all?
No.
Now, the checks that you've seen that Michael wrote total a couple $1,000s, is that right?
I believe so. I believe that sounds accurate.
Just as an example, is that one of those checks?
Yes.
How much money passed through TSG total?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay.
What document were you referring to, Ms. Cochran?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. That was Defendant's Exhibit. It looks like it's just 5. I believe it was Defendant's Exhibit 5, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask for this document to be marked as the state's next exhibit.
All right.
Number 28 for the state, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Now, defense counsel told you that the Bank of America account was never opened. Is that right?
That's correct.
What does this check tell you?
That it's a check printed with Bank of America, an account number on the bottom, Tactical Solutions Group LLC, and deposit only to another account.
But it is the Bank of America check?
It is, yes.
Now, during your investigation, you saw a text between the defendant and Michael Cochran during the time that he allegedly had her phone. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what nootropic source is? From your understanding?
It was included, I believe, either on the bottle of enclomiphene or on orders that I saw for the bottles of enclomiphene.
Your Honor, I'd ask that this be marked as the state's next exhibit.
Exhibit number 29, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Now, Lieutenant Bledsoe, is that your email signature at the top of the page?
Yes, it is.
Was this email sent to you?
It was.
And who was it sent from?
It was sent from the defendant.
And what does that tell you about who between the Cochrans was interacting with nootropic source?
I'm going to object. This message doesn't tell him anything.
I think we have to sustain the objection. You could rephrase Ms. Avery.
This is further down on the same email. I'm sorry. This was forwarded, right?
Yes.
That's the top of the page. Does this tell you who was attempting to order the enclomiphene?
Yes, the defendant.
Thank you. Are you at all familiar with insulin needles?
No.
So you wouldn't know about the size of that needle at all, right?
No.
Now, I know the defense counsel repeatedly asked you for direct evidence of our murder investigation, which we have repeatedly stated that we don't have, right?
Correct.
What circumstantial evidence led you to charge the defendant with murder?
I'm going to object as asked and answered at least twice.
I don't believe it has been, Your Honor.
Overruled. I'll permit it.
What circumstantial evidence do you have that led you to believe the defendant committed the murder of Michael Cochran?
The actions of Michael Cochran and the text messages between Michael Cochran and the defendant.
And it was your testimony testimony earlier that the defendant, in fact, told you that Michael was, quote, doing the best he's ever done in his life. Is that right?
That's correct.
The morning of February 6th, did Natalie purport to get both herself and Michael medications?
She did.
And just for clarification, who's that text message from?
It's from the defendant to Michael Cochran.
And lastly, was Natalie Cochran employed as a pharmacist at the time of Michael's death?
No, she was not.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I neglected to have this exhibit marked.
States exhibit number 30.
Your Honor, this time I would ask that State's Exhibits 28, 29, and 30 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
I object to the exhibit previously mentioned. I don't know what the number is. 28,
For the reasons stated,
for the reason stated at the bench
All right.
conference.
I'm going to admit 28, 29, and 30, 28 over the defense objection, but I'll reserve exceptions.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, recross Mr. Victor.
May I see 28, please? I'll hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 28 and tell the jury what it is.
It appears to be copies of checks that were written on an account at Bank of America for the Business Tactical Solutions Group, LLC.
Would you tell the jury if there are any checks written while Michael Cochran was alive?
Give me just a second to review them. I don't see any, no, sir.
So after Michael Cochran's death, would it be fair to say that the defendant opened the account and wrote the checks on it as part of her fraud?
No.
No? Show me the evidence, if you can, that my client opened that account prior to February 5th or 6th, the flight to Lynchburg, Virginia. Show me any evidence that she opened that account prior to that date.
During my interview with Mr. Nexon, that was what I understood him to relay to me, was that she had contacted their bank, the defendant had contacted their bank for the purpose of opening an account.
Yeah, for the purposes of opening that account, I didn't ask you what the purpose was. I asked you whether they had an account open prior to February 6th of 2019.
I can't say if that account was open prior to that date or not.
And in fact, they were going there they were supposed to go there on the 6th to open the account because the banker, as he testified, needed their signatures, right?
I do recall him saying he needed their signatures, yes.
Well, then why are we beating around the bush? As far as you know, before the February 6th, 2019, that account wasn't open. That account was open later, after Michael's death.
I don't know that.
You don't know that. Prosecutor asked you whether my client signing the checks told you anything about Michael Cochran knowing or not knowing anything about his business. Is that a fair paraphrase of her question?
I'm going to answer that. I'm just trying to make sure that I understand it, and I don't know if you could repeat it for me.
There was a question whether Michael knew anything about her business based on these checks, and you said you couldn't tell, right?
Yes.
So just because my client signed business checks after he died, because obviously he couldn't sign any more checks, that doesn't tell you what he knew or had known or didn't know or hadn't known about the business.
That was the whole purpose for his planned meeting at the Bank of America on the 6th, was to find out.
So the answer would be yes.
No, my answer is what I answered.
And you said that you had no knowledge of nootropics?
No, sir, I didn't say that.
What did you say?
I said I recalled the term or the word from either the bottle of clomiphene or documentation related to the order, which I have seen since. So it was one or the other, but I did recall that word. I just couldn't exactly remember exactly where.
And you testified on redirect that the messages between my client and her husband are circumstantial proof of her murdering Michael Cochran. Is that what you said?
I said his actions and the text messages, yes.
Actions and the text messages are circumstantial proof that she killed Mr. Cochran.
They're circumstantial and go towards that proof, yes.
Going towards the proof, or are they the proof?
Yes, they're the proof.
They're the proof. Show me the message that you claim is the proof of circumstantial evidence of my client killing Michael Cochran. Show me the one. Show the jury the one.
There's hundreds of them.
Hundreds of them.
Yes.
Well, show me number one.
I don't have them in front of me to show you.
Well, show me number two.
I don't have them here with me.
You're speculating, officer. All right, that's all I have. Withdrawn.
All right, it is withdrawn. Anything further, Ms. Akard?
Just very briefly, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would ask that this be marked as the state's next exhibit. It has been shown to defense counsel.
Very well,
31 for this one, Your Honor.
thanks.
Lieutenant Bledsoe, what are the dates on this account summary from Bank of America?
It says for January 30th, 2019 to January 31st, 2019.
And what day did Michael Cochran die?
February the 11th, 2019.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. I would ask that this be moved into evidence.
No objection.
All right, it will be admitted into evidence. Anything further, Ms. Acorn?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Victor?
Is it true, sir, that the bank will not open an account unless it has the wet signature of each and every signatory of the account?
Objection, Your Honor. That question should have been posed of the banker that testified. This witness has no way to answer that question.
Sustained.
All right? Did you hear the banker testifying to that effect?
No, I don't recall that.
Wasn't that the purpose of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran going to that bank in Virginia to sign off on that account, to open it formally by giving their signatures, putting their signatures to the opening documents of that account?
Mr. Cochran had been told that he was going to be receiving $1.4 billion into that account, and he wanted to make sure.
Yes or no? It wasn't that the point of their trip to?
No, I don't believe it was.
You don't believe it was? That's all.
Anything further, Ms. Acorn?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down, sir.
Thank you, sir.